Welcome to Speak for Yourself from the crib. Jason Whitlock, Marcellus Wiley on the day before Friday. Thank you for joining us. All right, we have an awesome show planned for you. Brett Veach, the general manager of the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, is going to join us later in the show. But first, we're going to go out to the Bay Area and grab our NBA expert, Rick Bucher, longtime NBA expert. Rick Bucher joins us from his crib because we're going to begin by talking about Michael Jordan. Let's begin there. The director of ESPN's 10-part documentary series on Jordan's last season with the Chicago Bulls called Last Dance says that Air Jordan is very concerned about watching the doc and thinking he's a horrible person. The doc has a bunch of never-before-seen footage and anecdotes about Jordan's hyper-competitiveness, his bullying tactics, his pettiness. Here's one example. In 1991, after winning the NBA title, Michael Jordan skipped going to the White House so he could golf with his buddy, James Slim Buller, a drug dealer. I'm not buying that the Last Dance doc is going to make me or anybody lose any respect for Michael Jordan. Maybe 5 years ago, this would be true, but not now. No way. The doc may actually have the opposite effect. It might make Jordan more real, less packaged, more relatable. That's my whole problem with LeBron James. Everything seems like a marketing campaign. Everything feels like it's been packaged. There's a press release for damn near every action LeBron James takes. When the dude shouts Taco Tuesday, he's working on trademarking the slogan so he can make money off of it. Look, it's great what LeBron's done with the I Promise School, but when you come out with a documentary that's basically exploiting the struggles of poor kids, it's a bad look. His HBO show, The Shop. This is LeBron sitting on a throne having a superficial conversation with a bunch of butt-kissing celebrities. I want to see Michael Jordan raw, uncut. Might expose him as a jerk, but I won't care as long as it doesn't expose him as a fraud. All right, I have no concerns. I want to see Michael Jordan be a jerk. Marcellus, any concern, any way possible that the Last Dance could make you lose any respect for Michael Jordan?
No concern for me at all. No concern if you think about what this 10-part series is going to be able to portray about Michael Jordan. Already had a healthy portion of his legacy attached to Michael Jordan wasn't perfect. And I understand that a lot of people out there don't want to see how the sausage is made. We can keep hearing about killer instinct and keep talking about Michael Jordan's mentality, but who really wants to dive into those details? I do. You know why? Because I think I already have a portrayal mentally in my mind of what that looks like, being around some fierce competitors before. And this whole mental dynamic of out of sight, out of mind. Oh, since I didn't know what Michael Jordan was up to, I could just not even think about it and not even feel it. I think you've been diluting yourself. We understand that now Michael Jordan is going to actually put himself in the future in the sense of leveling the playing field with all of today's current athletes, like you said, LeBron. This is going to put him in a small sliver of the social media criticism and expose that happens on a daily basis with today's athletes. And I think that would be healthy for his legacy. I don't see how anyone could look at this documentary, learn something, and change their opinion. As a matter of fact, I think most people will walk into this already with their mind wrapped around who Michael Jordan is and will find confirmation bias through this expose. So whatever you were thinking is just going to drive that point even further for you.
Yeah, no, I am not going to lose any respect for Michael Jordan in watching this. If anything, it's going to remind me of his greatness. I knew what his flaws were when he was playing in covering him, just as I know Magic Johnson's and Karl Malone's and Larry Bird's and LeBron James and Kobe Bryant's. If you're doing your job covering the league, you become aware of the full width and breadth of the person. But even in doing that, I know that I'm going to see things in this 10-part series that I didn't have access to. I believe the reason that Jordan is concerned that he is going to be seen as a horrible person is because he knows that we've become soft when it comes to sports. We want to have the curtain pulled back. We want to see how professional sports really is in candid moments. And then today's sports fan all too often is offended because it doesn't fit the norms of society. The reality is that's always been the case in professional sports. It's the case in a lot of competitive industries. And so it's not a matter of Jordan being any different. It's that society and the way we look at sports, we approach it and we view it in a different way.
All right, so maybe I phrased the question the wrong way because I'm talking to people. You and I, Rick, have covered sports. Marcel has participated in sports at the highest level. We're not really going to be shocked. But there are some people that don't have that up-close personal experience with sports who watch it more casually, who may be shocked by some of the things. And exactly what you're saying. We like our athletes and the way they're being presented now. Everything is they're perfect or everything's a marketing campaign. We never get to see how the sausage is made. I'm talking about the typical sports fan. And so any concern that the typical sports fan or the more casual, let's take my mom, for example. Let's say she watches it. There's nothing else to watch. There's no other sports to watch. Might she see something that makes her say, man, Michael was a jerk, that ain't my kind of guy.
Yeah, no, I think there are going to be people that are offended. Those that have a keen eye and understand that it was all feeding the killer mentality. It's funny that people talk about Scott Burrell and how Michael Jordan treated him. That's part of the documentary. I was at a shoot-around, and I knew Scotty from the year before he went to the Bulls. He played for the Warriors, and I was the beat writer. I got to know him very well. And I went to the shoot-around, and after the shoot-around, Michael and Scotty are walking to the far basket. And I looked at Scotty, and I said, what did you do? And Michael turned and looked at me, and he said, he was talking. Now, so they went down, they played one-on-one. Michael kicked his ass. But it wasn't because he was talking and he just wanted to be punitive or combative or bully him. It was because Michael always knew what it took to win. That's where his focus was. So whatever he did, as harsh it might have been, punching Steve Kerr in practice, it was all about, I need to hone myself and this team in order to win championships. And for Scotty, it was, I don't want you haphazardly talking trash and giving the other team ammo. There better be a purpose behind what you say when you say it. And if you say it to me in a shoot-around, I need to teach you a lesson that that's not how we work here.
Hey, look, could this pop some bubbles?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, could this pop some bubbles in someone's head in terms of what they thought Michael Jordan was, and perception, and this is a new reality? Of course it could. But only those people are the same people who are not in tune with their own behavior. And I think one thing that is a learning, teaching moment from social media is how the perception of who you are is not exactly the same as who you are in terms of identity or personality. I'll give you an example. If I played with 6 Hall of Famers and counting, and not one of those guys' image matches perfectly onto their personality. I'm the same way, even in my user behavior. It's not 100% authentic, everything I portray on social media. You know why? Because I like to hydrate. I like to curse a lot. There's a lot of things I like to do when I'm away from the camera or from all the eyeballs. That still is a part of whoever you think I am. So unless someone wants to really think that they are so authentic in every single thing that they do, that Michael Jordan can all of a sudden be an outlier to that, you got to learn from your own behavior. So Michael Jordan's no different from the rest of us.
All right, let me ask this question because it's going to happen. We'll watch this 10-part documentary series. There are no sports for us to watch. Everybody's going to watch it. It's going to fuel more discussion about LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. Who's the GOAT? I think there's a lot of young sports fans who really aren't aware of just how great Michael Jordan is. I think Michael Jordan could be a winner in that regard. People having sat down for 5 weeks. I think they're going to show 2 episodes every Sunday. I think Michael Jordan might win in that regard, in more people having more respect for just how great he is. And it may change some minds in terms of who the GOAT is, Michael Jordan or LeBron James. Marcellus.
Look, this is a documentary about the last year for the Bulls in the championship year. You couldn't set it up any better in terms of the last great year of Michael Jordan, and certainly the great year in terms of team success. I think that what this will do is actually let LeBron catch up to Michael Jordan, because you're going to see so many of the indiscretions and issues that we may have with today's athlete that we didn't properly attribute to yesterday's athlete. And now, for whatever doing, Michael Jordan's going to say, here's some of it, and we're going to be able to imagine even more of it. And then we're going to say, wait a minute. And LeBron, who's never been in jail, never been into trouble, got a family man, married to his high school sweetheart, the worst thing he ever did was give $5 million on the decision and try to trademark Taco Tuesday. I think we're going to start to try and balance those scales mentally. And we're going to look and say, maybe LeBron is not as bad as advertising. That closes the gap, if anything.
No, I'm going the other way from both of you. I think it's going to end the conversation, and we are going to see the difference between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. And we're going to go, oh, that's the real dude. Because you're going to see a guy who did not like the fact that his good friend Charles Oakley was traded, and then ultimately realized, look, I may not always have my best interests. I need other people to do their jobs, and I need to allow them. You're going to see him say, Phil Jackson is my coach. It's the only guy that I want to play for. You're going to see Michael Jordan present himself and make his opinion and feelings known, but you're also going to see him in a different way, handle things in a different way than LeBron has. And I think just that constant presence of his drive and his demand and his insistence on playing every night and playing hard every night and having this insatiable hunger, that is going to make people realize who did not see Michael Jordan in his heyday, that they're going to go, oh, we were completely wrong making comparisons here, because this guy is a different cat.
All right, stick around. Don't go anywhere. We're going to keep it moving. LeVar Arrington is going to join us next. We're going to move away from basketball and get into the NFL with LA. Speak for yourself from the crib, presented by Hyundai. More after this.
That's my dog. That's my dog.
Welcome back to Speak for Yourself from the crib. Jason Whitlock, Marcellus Wiley. Speak for Yourself, presented to you by Hyundai. All right, let's move out to God's country, Marcellus, Kansas City. And let's bring in Brett Veach, the general manager of the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Brett, listen, I found a picture of you on the 1997 Pennsylvania All-State team, pictured alongside our very own LeVar Arrington. You were a two-time All-State player. Were you a better player than LeVar Arrington?
That's a great pick. I appreciate you sharing that. Look, I would love to sit here and say I was a better player, but people back in Pennsylvania know what kind of a player LeVar was. He was certainly an icon back in the state of Pennsylvania, a great pro player. I will say this, Jason, though, I feel like I have a strained relationship with LeVar ever since bumping into him and you guys in Miami, and LeVar emphatically picking the Niners to win the game. So he was a better player, but I think our relationship is strained a bit.
Yeah, not a good prognosticator. We know that.
No,
we tolerate him here, though. All right, you've won a Super Bowl championship. What does a Super Bowl champion general manager do for fun during a quarantine?
Oh, wow. Aside from cranking out a lot of web chats with players and watching a lot of tape, I would probably have to say getting a lot of batting practice in with the kids outside. You know, their season's certainly suspended like everyone else's, and I got to try to dust off the old curveball and off-speed pitch because my kids are getting proficient at the fastball. So I'd say working on my overall pitching game right now.
Now, Andy Reid says that you saw Patrick Mahomes and said he was the best prospect you've ever seen. If that's true, what did you see that others missed?
Well, look, I mean, after Pat's rookie season, we traded Alex Smith, and I got asked by the national media at the Combine in 2018 what we thought of moving forward with Pat Mahomes. And I said, look, he's the best player I've ever seen. And I think from the time we started the process with Patrick, his talent was undeniable, but he just has that uncanny ability to make people around him better. And whether that was at Texas Tech during his sophomore and junior seasons and even early on in his freshman year and coming into the league, he just has he's the ultimate competitor. He makes people around him better. And I think one thing both you guys can appreciate being around the sport for so long, when you are at this level, it is so hard to really stand out and to make other great players look average. And to have this kid come in here as a rookie during rookie camps and even preseason, even though he wasn't a full-time starter, he's just, every time the ball is in his hands, he just has the ability to kind of separate himself. And, we knew it was a matter of time. And fortunately for us, Patrick has made everyone here look smart.
Now, how difficult will it be to pay Patrick Mahomes what he's worth without compromising your salary cap?
Yeah, listen, there'll be some challenges along the way, and those are good problems to have. I think if you're general manager of an NFL team, and if given a choice to have cap problems or have the best player in the NFL, I think every GM would take having the best player in the NFL on their team. So, look, there'll be challenges, but Pat's driven to win a lot of Super Bowls, and his mindset is like ours, to establish a legacy and to have this thing be successful for a long time. There'll be a lot of dialogue from now until the start of the season, but we're all confident that we'll be able to do something that is beneficial for us and beneficial for him, and everybody wins in the end.
Now, you said he was the best prospect you ever seen. You had him in his rookie year, and you saw him every day in practice. You ever question, should you have played him more as a rookie?
Oh, that's a good question. And, we've been asked that a lot. I'll say this. The credit here goes to Coach Reid. This was his plan, his vision. Do I think that we could have played Pat as a rookie and had success? Sure. I think that what he's accomplished so far kind of speaks for itself. But, again, I think what people sometimes overlook and don't understand is the value and the experience that working underneath a guy like Alex Smith provided Pat. I mean, Pat had the ability right away, but him able to come in, learn from Alex, and, it's a marathon this season. So to come in and see every day what it's like to prep on Monday, prep on Tuesday, adjust throughout the season and see different tendencies from different coordinators throughout the year, Pat would have had that experience. So Pat will be the first one to tell you how beneficial Alex Smith was to his career. And I certainly think we're in the position we are because of all of the mentorship that Alex Smith provided Pat.
All right, you go all the way back to Philadelphia with Andy Reid. You were a football player at the University of Delaware. How did you make the connection to Andy Reid to become Andy Reid's assistant coach in Philadelphia? How did that come about?
Yes, a lot of, like anything in life, is being in the right place at the right time. I had a relationship with the now Baltimore Ravens quarterback coach, James Urban, who at the time was Coach Reid's assistant. And, he had reached out to me, wanted me to work training camp as an intern while I was at the University of Delaware. So I spent a few seasons working with James Urban, who was Coach Reid's assistant at the time, working at training camp. And then when James got promoted up, there was an opening there to be coach's assistant. And James kind of reached out to me and told me he recommended me to coach. And the rest is history. So I certainly have to thank James for really getting my foot in the door.
There's more history to this. Before James Urban, I believe Sean McDermott, the head coach of the Buffalo Bills, was Andy Reid's assistant. Then James Urban, then you. And then when you transition, you recommend Matt Nagy, who's now the head coach of the Chicago Bears. Tell the story of Andy Reid's reaction when you suggested Matt Nagy should join his coaching staff as an assistant coach to the assistant coaches.
Yeah, it's a crazy story. You know, at this position, a coach's assistant, it's very similar to being a GA in college. So everyone who has had a position like a grad assistantship knows it's a lot of grunt work, a lot of long hours, and not a lot of pay. So when I transitioned over to the scouting world, Coach had asked me if I had any recommendations, and I told Coach, I said, you know, there's this kid I played college ball with, Matt Nagy. I said he would be a great candidate to be a coach's assistant. And Coach was like, all right, let's bring him in. I'm assuming he's not married and he has flexible hours. And I told Coach, I said, actually, he's married, but again, I think he'd be a great candidate. And then Coach was like, well, we can work with that, but as long as he has no kids, because he'll never be home. And I told Coach, I said, actually, he has 4 kids. And Coach just looked at me and said, there's no way, this kid's not going to be able to work 16-hour days with 4 kids. But credit to Matt's wife, Stacy, to figuring it all out and providing him this opportunity, and certainly was excited to see Matt get this opportunity in Chicago. And but it was a funny story, and it certainly turned out well for everyone.
All right, so James Urban's coaching Lamar Jackson. You're the general manager of the Super Bowl champion Chiefs. Sean McDermott's the head coach of the Bills. Matt Nagy's the head coach of the Bears. Being an NFL head coach, to me, is really about coaching the assistant coaches because they're paid to coach the players. What makes Andy Reid such a great coach of other coaches?
Right. Well, he's a guy that just believes in his process, and he never overlooks the details. And I think he installed that in me early on, and he installs that in all the coaches that come in and work for him. And the game isn't won on Sunday. The game is won Monday through Friday, and it's done the hard way. It's a lot of tape work. It's a lot of paying attention to the details and the finer aspects of the process. And I think that when he brings people in, he coaches, that element and aspect first, so that when these guys go on to coach their players and move on to different organizations, they understand that there are no shortcuts to success. And, every part of the process is important. And if you overlook one part, you're not going to have success. So I think all of those people that you mentioned, I think that we all were grounded early on, and Coach kind of took us under his wing. And, we value the long days and the early mornings. But we know at the end of the day that if you follow this process, it'll work out and be successful.
Now, Brett, with all of this experience and your background as a coach, why didn't you continue down that coaching path like McDermott and Urban and others, and Nagy, like you mentioned?
Well, that's a good question. I think when I first started, I think that was your natural inclination to think, well, I love football and I want to stay involved in the game. I think at the time when I was working with Coach, I think early on in his career, it was all coaching. And then he had that middle phase in his career, it was coaching / GM. Now it's back to coaching. But I think I kind of hit him during the time of his career where he was doing a lot of both. So I was exposed to both the coaching stuff during the fall and the scouting evaluation stuff in the spring. And the more I got to get involved, helping him out with the evaluation process, the more I fell in love with it. So I think probably the initial intention was to maybe venture off into the coaching world. But once he got me involved with the personnel stuff, I fell in love with it and wanted to stick that route.
Now, once you fell in love with the process of evaluating personnel, was your vision to be the general manager along Andy Reid? What were you thinking in those moments?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I ever got ahead of myself. And I think that's one of the things that I would probably say that has helped me along this process. I think, once I had the opportunity to work in the personnel side, I started off as an in-house scout, and after a while, I thought, wow, it'd be great to be an area scout. And then after being an area scout, I thought, wow, it'd be great to bounce around and do multiple areas. And then after that, I thought it'd be great to do multiple areas plus pro. So I think having the experience and knowing what each part of your personnel staff goes through, I think I'm able to relate to guys in my pro staff. I'm able to relate to national scouts. I'm also able to relate to area guys and know the challenges that they present themselves. So I don't know if I ever got ahead of myself early on, but I do think looking back on where I started from and where I am, I'm very thankful to have kind of worked your way up the right way and to really value each part of this personnel department.
Now, I'm not sure anybody can relate to what's about to happen next week in terms of a virtual draft. You being a general manager, where are you preparing, and what's this process and your concern level in entering this virtual draft? Andy Reid says he's prepping in his basement. How about you?
Yeah, no, we're all at home, and we're all kind of, have makeshift basements. And, before we hopped on, I kind of showed you guys the little inside here. I can't show it publicly because I got my magnets on the board and got my walls magnetized. I got video screens everywhere, magnets on the board. We got a bunch of computers, virtual chats going. So I think we'll be prepared. It's a level playing field. All the teams have to go through this. And I think for the most part, we've had so much lead-in time to this draft. I think that we're all excited about this virtual draft. And I think if you ask all general managers, the one thing that will be concerning will just be if you get that last-second trade offer where I think we're all prepared to handle trades, but if you're on the clock and you're ready to turn the card in with 30 seconds left, a team calls and wants to make a trade, just being sure that we have the communication on point and we know how to get people into certain chat rooms, whether it be doctors, area scouts, owners. So we'll do a couple more mocks with that and do some hypothetical scenarios and some last-minute trades. But I think barring the last-second trade offers, I think we'll be ready to go, and the anxiety won't be as bad as what we initially thought.
Brett, let me ask you a follow-up on that. Will it be more difficult because of the coronavirus to discover that diamond in the rough prospect that maybe you could in previous drafts when you had a little bit more time, had more time to get face-to-face with potential draft picks? Any concern that you won't be able to find the diamond in the rough like previous years?
Well, that's a good point. There's no doubt that because of, look, we're all aware of the top prospects and we're all aware of the guys that, went to the combine, and we're all aware of the guys at the big schools. Every year we see some small school guys that come out of nowhere and post big 40 times and big test numbers, and it forces all of us to do a second and third look. What I do think will be important is the continuation of this process. So, once you get through, like, for example, if this were last year, you feel like you've exhausted everything and every bit of information on prospects. I do feel that there'll be some small school guys that maybe there'll be no mandatory mini camps, and maybe we'll go right to training camp. Hopefully we do. But I think that's a continuation of this process, and to make sure we continue to keep guys on the board and go back and do some whenever we're able to work in a full capacity. I think you'll see some pre-camp workouts. I think you'll see some additional discussion and deliberation that goes on that typically doesn't go on from now to the start of training camp, because there will be a pool of players that there just wasn't a lot of information on in regards to times and medical. So I do think that'll be important for us to stay up to date from now until the start of training camp.
All right, I'm going to play the role of Chris Jones's agent right now. Other than Aaron Donald, I think Chris Jones is the best defensive tackle in football. You guys have hit him with a franchise tag. Do you anticipate being able to get a long-term deal done with the best player on your defense?
Yeah, well, that's our goal, and that's our intent, and then we're going to certainly put our best foot forward. We have some time. I think the deadline is July 15th to get something done with him. So we do have some time, but again, the franchise tag speaks for itself in regards to how we value him, and we know that when we have the ability to pair him and Frank Clark together, it's a lethal combination. So we're going to put our best foot forward and make every attempt to get that done. And like I said, I think time works on our side here. We have a lot of time, and certainly there'll be continued discussions from now until July 15th.
All right, we'll let you go on this note, an easy one. I say Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, the modern-day version of Joe Montana and Bill Walsh. What do you say?
Well, that's really good company right there. I think you look at Bill Walsh, Hall of Fame coach, legend of the game. Andy Reid, Hall of Fame coach, legend of the game. Joe Montana, one of the greatest to ever play. And I think that Jason Marcellus, you'd agree with me. I think Pat Mahomes is certainly on that trajectory. So, those guys won 3 Super Bowls together. We got 1 down, 2 to go. But I said that sounds good to me.
Brett, thank you for the time. Appreciate it. Go Chiefs.
Thank you.
Let's get another Super Bowl.
Chiefs.
All right, stick around. LeVar Arrington, the second best player in Pennsylvania in 1997. He's going to join us on Speak for Yourself from the Crib, presented by Hyundai. More after this. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself from the Crib. Today's big story is sponsored by KFC. Feed the whole family with KFC's $20 fill-up with all the fixins. Order online at KFC.com. All right, Jason Whitlock, Marcellus Wiley, a bit more hungry after that live read. Let's head out to Pasadena and bring in LeVarrington Arrington. LeVarrington Arrington. All right, from his crib, LeVar Arrington. Let's move to Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. And there was a story in the blogosphere today suggesting the Cowboys should consider trading Dak Prescott to either perhaps the Chargers or even most interestingly, perhaps to the New England Patriots. All right, this is the blogosphere, and someone's written an opinion piece. I don't think it's that far-fetched, though. I would rather trade Dak and acquire draft picks than overpay Dak Prescott. Marcellus, I can already see that look on your eyes. You're already upset with me. Should the Cowboys actually consider trading Dak Prescott?
Hell no, this is absurd. And I will only answer this because I want that check to clear. I can't be messing around right now in these trying times. So I will do my job and answer this. This is absurd. Like every party mentioned in this article has to be disgusted in disbelief and just rolling their eyes. Like, where are we getting this from? Because we're at an impasse in terms of contract talks, everyone's now lending themselves to just guesswork. Like, oh, even in the article it says this is pure conjecture, but maybe they think the Chargers are more interested in Dak Prescott than a Justin Herbert, so maybe it will make sense for him to be an LA Charger. Do we know what all it entails to be a franchise quarterback? Everything that comes with that, not just production, not just leadership, but I'm talking about not only keeping the image in a place where you can be responsible and accountable, but also leading other men. Like, there's so many attributes that come to that. When you find that guy, you don't let that guy go. I understand that it's rare, extremely rare, to have him on a franchise tag, but it's extreme to take from the franchise tag to actually make that guy trade bait. I thought it was absurd.
I don't think it's absurd at all. I think it's a possibility, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's a possibility. When you have a player and his representation feel as though the number that they want goes above and beyond the number that the organization isn't willing to go to make this happen, then now it opens up grounds for a different conversation to take place. If you want to be in the conversation of being paid like the number one, number two, number three quarterbacks at your position, but the franchise isn't willing to do that, it creates an issue, right? So now we look at Zeke last year. Zeke had the ability to leverage being one of the best, if not the best running back in the league and get that contract based off of that premise. I don't see Dak Prescott having that same value and being able to try to basically hold the team hostage in terms of getting that deal done. If you go into the season with that feeling and that type of discord between the quarterback and the organization, knowing that this is what the player wants versus what the organization wants, I think it now becomes feasible to try to figure out if you can cut your losses, get a value, because there's still a tremendous value connected to a possible trade with Dak Prescott. And then you look to see if you can replace the value of your quarterback with someone else, draft or free agent.
Listen, I'm going to jump in right off LeVar and ask this question. And my memory's fuzzy right here in the moment. But would the Washington Redskins have been better to trade Kirk Cousins than didn't he just walk after getting 2 franchise tags placed on him, and then he walked and they get nothing in return? That's my memory of it. And to me, I don't think you can argue that Dak Prescott has proven that he's any better than Kirk Cousins was in Washington.
Well, they're in two different situations. Everyone out of Dallas says that Dak is the future, where Kirk Cousins wasn't necessarily deemed the future. He was certainly the present, and they were hoping for even more in the future. So I think you're already at a different starting point. More than that, anytime you have a contract negotiation, you will have stalling moments. And in those moments, no one wants to give away money. So that's why we're at an impasse. But I don't think we should now use our imagination because of this impasse. This is par for the course. We're talking about potentially paying him the most in NFL history. You think that's going to come easily? It's going to take effort. It's going to take time. And it's going to take a deadline because nothing in life gets done without a deadline. So for me, I just relax and just wait for this to play itself through. But it's certainly not going to end with Dak Prescott being on another roster.
But again, where is that leverage if you're Dak Prescott? If you're going for the largest contract in the history of the league at the position, where is your leverage? And I think that that's where the biggest discussion point here comes into play into why this is a debatable topic. If I'm looking at the current guys out there, you look at Cam Newton's out there, you look at Jameis Winston. All right, we go all on Jameis Winston for throwing all of these interceptions, but think about this. Jameis led the league in passing yards last year. He was the passing leader of the season last year. Those guys are motivated. They're willing and able, and they probably can be signed at a lower price tag. So I think when you look at the field of who could possibly come in and be a guy that you put in place, if you were able to get a trade, you're talking about a mid-round guy and Dak Prescott. So even if you got a second-round pick with a fourth-round pick or a second-round pick in this draft, a second-round pick in next year's draft, and conditional deal, you still got a tremendous value on unloading Dak Prescott if you believe it is an unsignable deal. And I don't see the leverage in making him the highest paid player ever in the history of the game at this moment.
Man, that was great work, LeVar, and I'm really excited about the next segment. We're going to talk with a really all-time great Penn State Nittany Lion, someone who stayed all 4 years, graduated, and did it the right way. Rich Ohrnberger from his crib.
We are.
Or speak for yourself after this. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself from the Crib, presented by Hyundai. Jason Whitlock, Marcellus Wiley. All right, let's move to our final topic of the day. And Rich Ohrnberger, we're going to go out to San Diego and bring former Patriots offensive lineman Rich Ohrnberger into the show. Rich, a lot skinnier than that picture. All right, Caesar's Palace is saying that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to win 9 games. The over-under's at 9. And the Patriots at 8.5. Tom Brady's new team predicted to win more games than his old team led by Bill Belichick. Marcellus, who's right here? Who's going to win more games next season, the Patriots or the Bucs?
I say New England is going to win more games. I think Tampa Bay will have the better team, but the worst record. Part of that is their division, but also human beings, man, they are slow to change. And I'm going to talk about the mentality of a dynasty of New England. Even though Tom Brady's not there, Belichick's still there. They're still wearing those Patriot uniforms. And I can see how some teams will give and afford the Patriots a respect and not think that they're who they're playing. They're playing the image of the Patriots on top of the actual opponent on game day, where there's going to be some resistance to how great Tampa Bay is. And that's going to change your preparation. So for those who are like, yeah, right, as soon as you see a team, you just exactly know who they are and attack that opponent. If you were to watch right now the Jamaican relay team go out there in a track meet, you would say, oh, they're going to be good. Usain Bolt been gone. They are not the same, but you're still in your mind convinced of that greatness, and it takes a long time for greatness to erode. So I think it's going to be the Patriots.
I completely agree with Marcellus. I think that the Patriots have just a layer of cement over that foundation they've built throughout the past 2 decades. I understand Tom Brady has been a consistent piece to that puzzle, and he's moved on from the organization. But they faced, even in recent times with the Deflategate suspension, moments when they've had to have understudies fill in for Tom Brady and gotten the job done. Is Tampa Bay on paper a scarier-looking football team than the Patriots? Absolutely. But paper tigers scratch nobody. You have to win the games. And the Patriots are in the business of winning games and have been for a very long time. Part of that was due to Tom Brady, and part of that, and potentially a majority of that, because we don't know, was due to Bill Belichick. So my faith is in the Patriots. They have the lowest number of wins they've logged over the past 10 seasons is 11. So I'll give New England the thumbs up on this one.
I'm going to agree with you all. I'm going to go a different route, though. I'm just going to say, hey, man, Drew Brees is in the NFC South, and so is Sean Payton. And when I look over at the AFC East, there's no Drew Brees. There's not even a Matt Ryan over there. Matt Ryan's been the MVP of the league, and I know he's struggled. But, you know, Julio Jones, when I just look at the talent in the NFC South, I think it's a little better than the AFC East. And you still have the 600-pound elephant or gorilla or whatever in Bill Belichick in terms of, I just don't see anybody taking on King Kong and taking down Bill Belichick. Now, I think it's a possibility, and maybe Buffalo has a chance, but until I see it, I'm not going to believe it. You can hear all the stories about Bigfoot. I'm not going to believe it till I see it. I don't think someone unseats Belichick until I see it.
More games in the NFL are lost than won. And more games in the NFL are lost than won. And Bill Belichick lives by that mantra. He just takes advantage of all your mistakes. I don't think that changes, even though they have changed at quarterback.
Yeah, I really look at it this way. Bruce Arians and Tom Brady, they have to get to work in the kitchen making a brand new stew. Bill Belichick and Brian Hoyer and or Jarrett Stidham, they've been indoctrinated in this system. So I think the ingredients are going to meld a lot faster in New England.
Rich, I got to say this before you go. I thought I had lost some weight, and then I saw you. You going to restart a career as a quarterback in the NFL?
Oh, man, those days are behind me. I'm just trying to eat, carrots and avocado smoothies like Tom Brady. I'm not trying to throw the ball at 34 or 42 for that matter.
Say it, brother.
All right, well, thank you. Great job, Rich Ornberger. Nice job. All right, let's go out to Uncle Jimmy next. When we come back, we'll get to our approval rating for Michael Jordan. Can't wait to hear what Uncle Jimmy has to say about MJ. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself from the Crib. Jason Whitlock, Marcellus Wiley. It's the day before Friday, one of the best days of the week. All right, let's head out to Uncle Jimmy's crib.
Thursday.
And Uncle Jimmy's going to help us talk about our approval rating for Michael Jordan. All right, who's your big dummy of the day, Uncle Jimmy?
Hey, man, big dummy of the day go to the person that keeps on trying to have something to say with every guest about their weight loss. Jason, the only person you are smaller than on TV is Darnell. Okay, that's it. Nobody else. Stop.
That's it?
All right.
Nobody else?
I'm sure Darnell's offended by that
Brian,
statement. All right, what do you think of our conversation about Michael Jordan? Any chance you'll lose any respect for MJ with this new documentary?
Man, Michael Jordan is what they call an old double G. And original gangster of the game. No player alive has ever struck more fear into NBA players than Michael Jordan. Mike was so cold, Mike would put a hit out on you and carry out that same hit himself. Ask Steve Kerr. See, Mike played up under what we call the PCE, the Players Code of Ethics. See, we played in a time when a player had respect for another man's thoughts. See, these players nowadays ain't got that.
You goofy.
No respect for the game.
No respect for another man's thought. Yeah. Gotcha. All right, look, Marcellus, you got Michael overrated. How you going to have his job performance at 25? He owns the Hornets. He can't have his job performance at 25.
He gave a 10-part documentary. That's amazing to me. That's great. I don't need to see it. I already know he had problems.
They got him at a go. We'll see you tomorrow.